Hi everyone, welcome back to Bernina Club. Well, as you know, I've been away at Bernina University in Dallas, Texas, and we had to upcycle a jacket or make a new jacket, which I was never going to do because I didn't have time. So I've upcycled my purchased jacket from an op shop which cost me $8. So when the new cape machine came out, I embroidered this cape design on it. And I also embroidered these cape designs on it. And when I found out I was going to Bernina University, the whole Bernina University, we were sent this embroidery, which is Share the Joy, and that was the theme. So I decided to embroider Share the Joy. And then here I've done some 3D flowers, embroidered flowers on the cape B570 machine on the back. And because I was going to Dallas, Texas, I thought I'd put a bit of fringing on it. So, yeah, it was well photographed and well liked. And then on the front, I did another 3D embroidery, and I stitched this just onto wash away fabric and then washed it away and was left with my embroidery. I put my little kiwi on there. I love my Bernina. And during the course I added a few more little badges. So it's ready to throw in the wash, but I just quickly thought I'd show you that. And when we got to Dallas, Texas, we had to wear our badge with our name, our badge with our name on it. And so people knew where we were from, but nobody knew where Tauranga was, or New Zealand for that matter, half of them. But what was clever was on the back, it had labelled all the classes. So every day I was booked into different classes, so I could look on here and go, right, what am I doing today, tomorrow, da-da-da. That was the handiest thing ever, because it was so busy that you just really, it was hard to know where you're going to be on any given day. So it was very, very handy, that. What I loved about Bernina University was the choices we had of classes to do. So I did as many hands-on classes as I could do, and I was a little bit spoiled because some of the classes I did use the new Bernina 790 Pro machine. Now that should be in New Zealand around August, and it's the same size obviously as the 7 series, but it's got a lot of incredible features which you'll see as when they come in, because I'll do a video. So one of the classes I did, one of my most favourite classes I did, was a creative decorative serger class, and I'm going to show you 4 of the stitches I have done during that class. So when we went to the class, we would get a folder with all our coloured sheets, and then we'd do our samples to put in our book. So it was great. So when you went there, you would go home and have your folder for work. So I really liked the fact we did that. Another class that I did was on the new machine was on the new embroidery machine was this one, and I did this from Sarah from Bernina, Switzerland, who's the Kiwi girl that works at Bernina, Switzerland. So this was a lot of fun. When we had 45 people per class, or up to 50 people in the class, so it was extremely busy, especially when you were going back to staple them all together. So when I got home, I covered this with orange felt, put a braid around it, and I'll put a little hanger to hang it in the shop. But really, really good. Everything we did, we got to finish, which was great. Another great class I did was on the big overlocker, and we got to use some of the new feet. So that was really, really good, because some of these feet we haven't even got in store yet. So it was about learning the new things on the new machine. So I did this one specifically because I hadn't used any of these new feet. So we only got through 5, and I've got another 4 to do. So we didn't get those finished, but 90% of the other ones we did. Another great class I did was this one here, which was on the new Bernina. Now this was a little bag that we made on the embroidery part of the machine, and the whole bag was made in a hoop. So we didn't have to sew a zip in, the machine embroidery part of the machine did it. And the new B790 Pro, it can morph your design. So you can put in a design, You can tell it the shape you want it to morph into. You can tell it how much allowance, and it will stitch it. It is incredible. The other thing I love about it is it has got a laser on it, so you can see exactly where the needle's going to sew. So that was a great class. And another class I did was on the different presser feet. And yes, I might have used some of these feet before, but it was still a very good class, and I have yet to write this out because I didn't want to do it in a rush in class. So just using different feet for different techniques. This was very, very, very good class. I'm going to show you a couple of these things today from this class. So it was very, very good. We're going to do that later, and we're going to do that. So that was another class. And then I did a great, great class with a lady who's going to actually be doing a block of the month and making a quilt. This is just a printed panel of the quilt. So all this will be pieced. But we were learning how to do beginners quilting with the rulers. So if I had taught this in my class, I probably would have quilted across here and carried quilting across here. But what was really good when the tutor explained it to me, she said, no, when you're teaching, you quilt across to here, but then you start quilting and go downwards. So when you're learning, you don't have to try and get such a straight line and guide it, because if you don't get it just right, it won't look good. So this was a good class. This was me learning how to use a different ruler that I hadn't done, and I've done an oopsie and I'm leaving it in because that's really good for teaching. So the quilt will look similar to this. Oops, oh, it's got caught around there. It will look similar, it's a big quilt, but it looks similar to this design, but this is just a printed panel. So what's good about this, I get to repeat that 4 times and then do the quilting on here, so people, when they do the quilt, they can see what it's going to look like at the end, because I'll show them how to quilt it. So that was quite fun. So this is something that's going to be starting very soon. It will be a block of the month. So I'll let you know, and then after you've stitched it all together, then you learn to quilt it. So when we would go to our classes, we would be given a folder like this. And this is what I really thought was really brilliant. It was so organised, and everything that we needed, that's just some extra bits I put in there, everything we needed for the class and all the goods were in our folder. So it was very easy for us to be able to just do everything and take it home. Now that made our life easy, but you can imagine I was travelling. So when I was at Bernina University, I was then going on to meet my husband and have a holiday, so I had quite a lot of stuff to bring back from Bernina University, so I had to do this. I mean, it was a must. I had to buy a bag. So this is my new Bernina trolley bag, and it's also a backpack, so this can open up as a backpack, and it can also have the wheels. So it was a very handy bag, and my excuse was I needed something to put all those goods in. So unfortunately got a bit damaged on the plane, but that's all right, I can fix that. But it's very, very good, and in here you could put your computer or whatever, so it's quite a handy bag. And it's got your straps, and they're elasticized, so I could hold everything quite good. Plus it's got little Velcro bits on the side to hold. So that's my new Bernina trolley bag. So at the university they had many tutors, and before we went to university we got to choose what classes we did. So I had pre-booked all of these classes. Some of the classes I wanted to do I couldn't get into because they were too full, so I just went for my second or third choice. So I was happy with all the classes that I did. So first thing I want to share with you is sewing the pearls on. Now in the last couple of months I've talked to you about the number 12 foot and the number 21 foot, and I think I mentioned about the 12C foot, but we were out of stock. Now the 12C foot is a foot that's got the 21 foot on the top and underneath it's got the 12 foot. So it's a combination foot. And what's really good about this is you can sew your woolen jerseys together. So you can double overlock your woolen jerseys together. You can sew pearls on. You can make piping. You can make cording, and you can do braiding. So it's a very universal, really, really good foot. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to sew pearls on to the end of a garment. So we can zigzag over them and sew them on a garment, but we want to sew them to the edge. So what you want to do is you want to get this product called wash away. So when we did it in class, we used tear away, but it doesn't tear away fully. So I like to use wash away because I then know that's going to fully wash away. So I'm just going to get my scissors that I've no idea where I put them here. Get my little scissors, and I'm just going to cut. Where are my bigger ones? I'm just going to cut down here. And I'm going to use a little bit of this wash away to put on the edge of my garment. So say this is my jacket, and you can fold up a hem and you can just sit the wash away underneath like that. So we're going to work on the right side, and the pearls, whatever fits under this foot and flows freely, that's the size pearl you can use. All right, so the pearl sits beside my fabric, and here's my notes so I remember. So the width, so go to, first of all, tell your machine what foot you've got on. So it is number 12C. If you want to do this and you don't have this foot, you use foot number 12. It will do exactly what I'm showing you, okay? And you want to put your width you want to put your machine on to zigzag, and you want to put your width on 4.5. Now that will change depending on the width of your pearls, and your length you want to put on 1.9. And again, what you're trying to do is zigzag over your pearls and getting the zig and the zag in between your pearls. So this width, when you start, it should stitch over the top of the pearl and then go in between the pearl. It is only going to be just catching to the left. So I'm going to just put this colour thread on. It doesn't really matter, so you can see. So I'm just going to thread my machine up with standard thread on the bottom. Use my automatic needle threader. If yours doesn't work, get it sorted, because they're the best thing ever. Now my thread is there, and I want it through my foot, and there's no hole in my foot. So I'm just going to thread it up and pull it down and put my foot on. Okay? So sit your pearls underneath the foot on top of the wash away, and you are zigzagging. When you zigzag, if your zigzag is not catching your fabric, then do your zigzag wider. Okay, so all I'm doing is this. I am not worrying about where it's stitching, I'm just worrying about my pearls being in the center of my foot. So if I started sewing and I went like this and it pulled away, I would know my zigzag needs to be wider. Okay, so I'm just sewing down, and it's so much better with wash away. I don't even need that width of wash away. I'm going to show you. There we go. So if I show you there, you can see that is tear away and that is wash away. So I've washed that away and it's gone all the way back, and I may want to just top stitch down that edge, I don't know, whatever you want to do, but you can see clearly with the white thread on the silver that the zigzag goes in between the pearls. So with this one, it's exactly the same. So what I would do now, if I was doing this to wash it away, I'd trim back my excess of my wash away, and then I just dab it with water. So being wool fabric, I don't want to get that all wet. So you could just get a cloth and dab it and it would disappear. Okay, So that's your pearls on the edge of a fabric. I think it's fabulous. So that's that one. So the next one I want to show you is using the braiding side of it. There's many stitches I could show you, but I've done a few of them in the last couple of months. So this one, we're going to get a selection of braids or cords, whatever you want to do. Should we be outrageous and use these 3 colours? Why not? They'll work. Scissors. So what I like about using up these, if you didn't want to use wool or cord, you could actually just strip some fabric and put 3 layers of fabric through there, or however many fit through the hole. The secret is whatever fits in that hole and moves freely, you can stitch over. So way back, let's go at least 10 years ago, I made this bag and I used that foot and I just couched over this around the side of my bag, and I also couched 2 rows around this bag. So I used this foot a lot, and this was just upcycled silk fabric. That's all that was. So I've used it quite a lot, and this was a wool bag that I made a long time ago. So I like couching. Now this was put on by making it and sewing it at the same time. I'm going to make it today and then sew it on and show you how to make it even better. So I'm going to do that today. So first things first, you want to roll those so you can get it through your eye. Sometimes you have to put a bit of sellotape on. So I'm rolling those so I can try and get it through that little eye. Oh, I got 2 out of 3. Oh no, here we go. Oh look, I got them all through. So all you have to do is pull them, and if they flow, then you know you're going to be able to sew them. There we go, and I've got a bit of thread stuck in there. Just hold that, right. So I'm going to put a pretty colour on the top because you want it to look really bright and colourful. So I'm going to use the same foot, and I might even put a nicer bobbin in because you really want to make a feature. So my bobbins are on here. So let's put a coloured bobbin in as well. So I will go with, the choices. I'll just put a lime green bobbin in because that could be fun. And we're going to make our braid, but this one, the feature is actually sewing it on to the fabric. So it's a little bit different method. And I'll go with lime green again. So let's go with a bright lime green. And then I might stitch it on with a totally different colour to make it outrageous. Now I don't know what this thread, I think this is just an embroidery thread, so it's possibly a poly neon 40. And remember, when you're putting this foot on, you're going to have your wool out the back, about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. But when I put this on, I want to get my needle down through my foot, and that's how I do it. So with this one, I'm still going to zigzag, but the difference with this one is I'm going to change the width to 3, I believe. Yep, and the length to 4. So the width is going back down because I only want it to cover the cord. So 3, and the length is 4. So if you watch this one, this is very cool. Oop, 4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just start zigzagging first. And just cut that thread. Now I'm going to start twisting this so I get all the colours, and I'm making a cord basically, but this is wool. So just twirl it around. You can, if you want to, you can just let it go, but sometimes one colour becomes more dominant. I kind of like this method. So I'm holding it firm at the front and at the back so that it's going to feed through nice and evenly, because this isn't the feature, this is just making the cord, okay? Or the braid or the handle. You could do 3 of these and braid them for a handle, it'd be very strong. But this is great because this is tapestry wool, and you can buy it in the little hanks for a couple of dollars, and so you can do an awful lot with that without having to buy a whole skein of wool. And we sell every colour you could think of. So they're really, really good. I think we do 3 for $5, so it's quite handy. There we go. Now I'm going to use an outrageous colour to sew it on because you want to see the feature. So now what I'm going to do, once I've gone through and done that, I'm going to cut my cord, and I'm going to, oh, my thread did cut anyway. I'm going to take out that thread, and I'm going to use an outrageous colour like this, bright orange, because you want to see it. And I leave the green underneath because I'm not going to see the green. Make sure your foot is up when you thread so your tensions are open. And wait. And I always put the thread through there. Okay, so I'm going to leave this foot on, and I'm going to thread this down through the hole. So cut it on an angle and thread it down. Oh, you might need to just hold that a bit tighter. And I should have done it while it was off and I forgot. It's easier to thread it up than thread it down. So just go through there, and sometimes I use my tweezers. I've got one, there it goes, it's quite handy. Pulls through pretty well because it's soft. Now the stitch I'm going to use, you won't believe, it's very bizarre. It's number 400, no it's not, it's number 723. So if I'm going to sew this, I'll do it on this one. If I'm going to sew this and I was worried that my fabric might move or stretch, always put a bit of tearaway behind. Okay, so never, I'll just get another piece, never ever just sew on it, just get another bit of tearaway, and then you know that it's going to keep it really firm. So we did it on stretch fabric, so we definitely put tearaway on it, but I'm just going to use it on this fabric so you can see because it's black. So the beauty about threading it through that hole for the 21 foot is when I sew, it's going to go where I go. So I can go anywhere, and the beauty of the stitch is the way that it sews it. It's very, very clever. Now if I want to go and do a little, oh hang on, I'll come this way first. If I want to make a circle, I simply just sew and it will go where I go. If I didn't have this foot and I wanted to do this, I would have to do single pattern every time. So you see how it's going where I want it to go? Very clever. So it's because it's threaded through that foot, I don't have to think about where I'm sewing. If I want to go and do a right angle, what I do is I push pattern end and it stops in the middle of my work. Oops, I cut it. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'll just put my needle down so I can show you. Now I lift my foot up and I turn it and just give it a little bit of a tug at the mid and at the front so it pulls that fabric, thread, and then cord, braid, and then you carry on. So I'll show you that again without cutting it this time. So pattern end, oh, it might be set on my machine to cut, that's why. Pattern end, and I'm going to push this button and see if it's set to cut, and I might have to change that. Yeah, I have set my machine to do pattern end and cut, so I'm going to go in and change that. So I'm going to go into my settings and I'm going to go to my straight sew zigzag and I'm going to go to my little hand and I'm going to go to my pattern end and I'm going to turn off the scissors so it doesn't happen again. Now it won't happen again because I've told it off. So I'm going to show you that again. So I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to push pattern end. This time it didn't cut. So now I can turn and sew. So you've got to remember, if you've set things, to change them. Okay, so once more, I'll just show you that again. Pattern end. Foot lifts up because I've got it on hover, and now I can sew down to here. So it's a little bit of fun. Now, I will show you what happens if I don't have, I'll just go down to here. So you can go anywhere. So you can see, I'm just going to, that's what I want to do. I just want to stitch this stitch so you know the stitch because it's hard to see on here. So now I'm just going to stitch that stitch so you understand what stitch it is, but explain something. So I've got green thread on the bottom, which is a normal weight thread. I've got very fine thread on the top, and I've allowed it to bring the bobbin thread up so you can see both colours because it's fun. So if you have a look and I stitch it, hopefully, yeah, the green's popped up. So if I don't want the underneath colour coming up, I just go to my tension and take my tension down. So my tension's on 3.5, I'm going to take it on to 2.5, and now it should pull the green to the back and I shouldn't see any green thread. It's really important that you know you can do that without any problem. So that is my stitch, and I'm going to show it to you now. So I allowed the machine to pull a little bit of the green thread, so I get green and orange stitching on my work. Just a little bit of an eyelash, it's called. And if I don't want it, I completely take my tension down so you can't see it. So if I turn it over to the back, you can see the green thread's quite dominant. Oh, there's some little threads there. Green thread's quite dominant, but I can change it so it's not so dominant. Now, if I want to see more of the green thread, what I do is take my tension, I'll go right up to 5.5. Let's see what we get. You can do it to your liking. And if you use really thicker thread underneath, you'll get a totally different look. So this is on 5.5. And you can see clearly that the green is pulled right up to the top. So whatever look you want, that's what you can do. I love working with colours. So you can see now I've made the green very dominant and I've changed the whole tension. So yeah, it's never wrong, it's just fun. So this is a really good stitch to stitch on that braid. I think it looks fabulous. So, and see what it does when you do a circle? You get this beautiful little eyelashes in the circle. Can you see that? Oops. Oh, my husband said it looks like a man. Is that what you're saying, this way?
Yeah.
Oh, this way? Okay. Rightio, apparently it's somebody that looks like this. So I've been told that is my picture. Excellent. He's got a very good imagination. So that is that one and that is that one. Now I'll just show you my other samples because I've done an awful lot of that couching just so you can see it. But what I do want to show you is this. So if I go to sew this on but I do it underneath, look what happens. I'll just do it down here. Here's what happens if I don't put it through the top. If I just sit it underneath like this, I'll just clear my tension. Go there and go clear. And just take it down tighter. Now, if I'm doing this here, and I want to do a circle, I have to do it painfully. I have to go into my eye for information and do single pattern and do one pattern. Then I have to turn it and do one pattern. Then I have to turn it and do one pattern, because I haven't got it through my eye. So if you've got foot number 12 and you want to do a circle, this is how you have to do it. So it's going to take an awful lot longer, but you can still do it. Okay, so single pattern every time. And one more. And turn. So you can see the benefit of having the central hole in your foot. So either foot 21 or foot 12C. So now I can take my single pattern off, and now I can sew all the way up here. You can do exactly the right thing when you're doing your the same as I did before, beg your pardon, when I'm doing my right angle. So I'm going to come up to here, pattern end, turn, oh I need to go further, pattern end, turn, and across there. So there's benefits to having this foot, but if you've got the 21 foot, it's easier when you're doing either the 12C or the 21, makes it really, really easy. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But you can do that with fabric, you can do it with very thin fabric, just 6mm strips. You can do it with wool, you can do it with cords. So you can see how much longer that took to do my circle, whereas it just flows with the right foot. Okay? Now, on the, so I'll just show you my other samples. So this is just showing the same stitch, but on bright orange, purple thread, cerise colour thread, and you could leave some of your cord. So this one was done with wool and cord, and it looks really, really fun. So that was that one. And then this one was done with the same. It was done with 3 different coloured cords, but on a navy background. So they look quite different. So yeah, I'm going to join those all together and make something. Now I'm going to show you some fun stuff on the overlocker, because I think these are really, really, really cool. So we are going to, believe it or not, I've got these beautiful threads called Aurifil 12 weight. And this is my little container. And I'm going to choose, say, purple. Ooh, purple and hot pink. Well, let's be really outrageous and have purple and yellow, because I haven't done that one. So I'm going to put these on one looper. So these are going to become one thread. So I'm going to thread these on my red looper. We're not going to use our blue looper. In your machine, you will either have a strange little contraption that looks like this. And what this is this is a little cap that goes over your blue looper. So I'm going to turn the machine around. And this little cap fits over, I'll see if I can do it without making it awkward. This fits over here, and it pushes in the eye of the blue looper. So the blue looper is the one that does all the work on top, and we want to stop that from working. So we're going to put that on there, and the old machines have a little cap, and it fits over there, but this one just lives in the machine. So whatever machine you've got, I can teach you how to do this. So you just put that over there. So we're only using the left thread, and these ones are going to become one thread. So I'm going to thread these in my red looper, and I'm going to teach you how to make fringing. So you thread this up as if it's one thread. You don't have to do anything hard, except for I need my tweezers. So this is Aurifil 12 weight thread, and I'm using 2 layers of it. If you don't have this, you could use pearl number 8 thread, which is hand embroidery thread. You could use anything, any of these beautiful threads. This is the Lana thread. You could use Katona, or anything thick you can use. Now, the trick here is you want to thread these through the eye. Oh, here's another thing I need to show you. You want to thread these through this little eye here. And you're like, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. So the easiest way to do that is to get a piece of thread. Especially, oh, there's a piece I had. Here's a piece I had. Especially if you're going to be wanting to thread them on the big L850s and L890s. You've got these pipes that air thread. So what you want to do is you want to do about 1 metre of this and fold it in half and put it through the pipes as if you're going to be threading your thread, and leave a loop sticking out and then thread this thread through, which is exactly what I'm going to show you. So I will do it on the other machines and do a video for you. So you need to make this so it can thread through, thread through the eye of the looper. And you want to pull it with your tweezers like that so you can see. And then you want to bring these threads through that big loop and then pull it, and it will thread them through your looper and you're done. It's very clever. So it's just a little piece of thread that you use as a tool. Don't try doing it with a wire. It's much easier with a bit of thread. So now this is just going to go under that, the knife. I can put the knife down, I'll show you. It's just going to go under the foot like that. Okay, I'll put the knife back up. You can leave the knife down if you want to, but I like to put it up. Then I know where my guide is. So that goes like that. So I've only got my left hand needle to thread, and I've got my normal needle in my left hand. So I'm just going to thread this, and this method is all about your tensions. Okay, all about your tensions. So I am going to check my notes, because you will get the notes obviously, or you've got the notes, and make sure we get our tensions right, and it will all work. It's very, very clever. So you definitely have to follow some rules when you're doing this, and that's one of them. Make sure you get all your tensions right. So with this one, this is going to be the fringing. One moment, please. Okay, so we have got our left needle in, and we're going to put our left needle on 4. We're not using our upper looper, and our lower looper has 2 threads, and it's going on 4. So we're not changing our tensions at all, but we're putting our stitch length. So this one is your stitch length on 1.9, and this one is your differential feed. You're leaving it on 1. Now, in here, this moves my blade in and out. Can you see that blade going in and out? I want it as wide as it can go. So on this machine, I can go out to 9. So my blades moved out, so that's made my 2 blades further apart than I would normally have them. So you want that on the widest marking. Now all you're going to do, you're going to get a bit of fabric. There's a bit of fabric. And we're going to make a fringe. Now I think the easiest thing to do, I like having a fold. So I'm going to fold my fabric, and I'm going to sew down with the knife beside my fabric, like that. And the stitch length is going to determine how close your fringing is going to be. So I've made it very close, and where's my foot control? Oh, he's over here. So jumpity because it's getting to the end. So just sew your fringing. If you don't want to cut your fringing at the end, this would make a beautiful wrapped finish. Really nice. How cool is that? So this has done a beautiful close stitch here with my 2 colours, and on the back, oh, I've skipped a couple of stitches. On the back, see how it's got this thread? That must have been when that was jumping around. This thread has become a loose stitch on here, which I'm going to cut to make fringing. But if I cut that, there is nothing securing that stitch, so it's going to all fall to bits. So you need to run a stitch on the sewing machine up that row of stitching. So we were told to do a little zigzag, but look at the fun I've been having. I have done that one, and I've been doing can I hold that up like that? I've been doing fancy stitches. So instead of using a boring old stitch, a zigzag, I pick a really nice solid stitch, and I mirror image it, and I do a fancy stitch. Oh, I don't want that foot on. I will just get another foot. I'll get the open toe so you can see it. Here's another one that I've done. There. So I just try out fun stitches, but we were only allowed to just obviously use the basic stitch. But if I do this stitch, and I'm securing it, but I'm also doing a fancy stitch, it's quite fun. Right, this is not moving, so I'm just going to show you. So when I sew, it's really not going anywhere. So what I want to do, if that happens, is just get a little bit of, here we are, a little bit of tear away. Tear away. There we go. A little bit of tear away. Put it behind here, and it will help move my fabric. Okay, so it will feed. There we go. See the difference? I love tear away. Now, remember I've got a different colour thread underneath. I forgot to change my tension. Take my tension down, and now I actually think it's too far apart, so I'm going to bring my stitch length closer. So just play around with your machine till you get it how you want it. Much happier now. I think I might put a new needle in though. I think my needles all need replacing. So see, you can make it a little bit more fun. So when we did it, we just used a small zigzag. So back to straight sewing, on to zigzag, really, really little and really, really close. So if I do a little zigzag, I need to come over here, little tiny zigzag, and all you're doing is covering over the row of stitching you did with your straight stitch on your overlocker. But I just think it's a bit boring myself. So I like the fun, bright colours, wide satin stitches. Okay. And tear away is your best friend. Love it. Okay, you can get rid of it. Now, note to oneself, when you tear away, I didn't think I'd ever have to teach this, but you do. Do not tear it away from your stitches like that. You can do one of two things. You can put your fingers beside your stitches, because you don't want to damage your stitches, and just very gently tear it away. Don't pull it back, because you might damage your threads when you've got points. And when you're doing this side, start it off, it will tear away beautifully because it's like a straight stitch. If you want to, you can pull those bits of tear away out, but they're not going to hurt, they're just going to wash away. Now, I've secured it all the way along, so now I can get my little snips, and you cut all your threads at the back and make your fringe. And the best part about the fringe is it's got a loop, so it's never going to undo because it's looped. And you can press it with the iron once you've trimmed this back, like that. And there you have your gorgeous little fringe. Isn't that clever? And it's a loop, and then you can trim that fabric back. So if you wanted to, you could leave that as a wrapped seam and not cut it back at all. And you can see here, I've tried different stitches. So I've done the blanket stitch, I've done another fun stitch, looks like lightning, I've done a scallopy stitch, and I did the same on the other side. So just playing around with colours, and I used the red and the green, variegated, it looks very Christmassy. So I think it's a lot of fun. And then on the back, I've just trimmed the fabric really close to those stitching, and there's my finished hem or whatever it wants to be. But I think my favourite are these two because I love bright colours, and I've just shown you how you can fringe it or leave it, and adding bright colours. So add colour, add colour. So the next one we're going to do is called the teardrop, I believe, or raindrop. Let me see if I can remember what it's called. I forget every time. It's called the raindrop stitch. So I have got the 12 weight thread in, but I'm going to put it on the needle. But before I do that, I want to do the blanket stitch. No, they're both done on the needle. So what I do is I'm going to change my needle and put a 90 top stitching needle in there, and I'm going to put these threads on my needle. So when we come back, I will change it over and I'll show you what to do.